Yeah, Nick, it's the on button, right? You got, whatever. Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about scaling your multi-account strategy. I am still Kyle, your senior security solution architect that focuses on threat detection and incident response. Shout out to the ASL interpreter catching up to my loud mouth. And Jeff, who are you?
Oh, me. Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Jeff Mershak. I'm a senior solutions architect on our DoD Air Force team, and we are here live. And when I say live, I mean live in Washington, D.C., District of Columbia, for the 2023 AWS DC Summit. This is day 2, and my feet don't hurt too much right now. What about you?
I've been sitting the whole time.
Yeah, we've been doing this.
Actually up here, so.
So in this episode or section or part of the show, we're going to be talking about a multi-account strategy. When people start working with AWS, you get your first account, you start playing around, but as things scale and grow, you start to have more and more accounts. We talk about different accounts for different purposes, different environments. And so with us today, we have Ellie and Raymond to talk about our multi-account strategy. So you want to guys introduce yourself?
Sure. My name's Raman Gupta. I'm a senior product manager. I work specifically on accounts.
Hi there, my name is Ellie Ray. I'm a senior product manager on AWS Control Tower.
And now, Raman, when you mention accounts, we're talking about the actual account construct of when you sign up using an email address, that account.
That's correct. Yep.
That is something that is very fascinating. And the reason why I say this, coming from the security world, we always talk about using accounts for, isolating the scope of impact, or also, your dev, QA, prod, blue, green, whatever you want to call it. And we have grown so much with being able to scale these different controls. And I don't want to keep talking because you have way more awesome stuff to say than I do. But I appreciate all of the hard work that has gone into making multi-account strategies a lot easier for our customers.
Thank you. That's great to hear. Yeah, so I mean, as you said, accounts represent important security boundary for customers. And as much as we want to continue to introduce new features at the account level, we have to make sure that security is, the top priority.
Right.
And some customers are totally fine with just having a single account and running all their workloads in that account. But we found that as customers get larger and as they have more complex requirements, that a multi-account environment can be really helpful for them.
Yeah, and so I've experienced firsthand both worlds where you have almost like a shared services account where you have thousands of different resources in there, but then as you start to mature or look at different methodologies of maintaining your workloads, using different accounts is great. But when it comes to implementing security controls, there was a time where it could have been somewhat challenging, but tell us, what have you done to help make that much easier?
Sure. So as you're probably aware, we have a service called AWS Organizations. This is a service that's purpose-built to help you manage a multi-account environment. So even though we provide a lot of controls and flexibility at the account level, there are constructs that are available at the organizations level too to help you manage the security of your accounts. So things like SCPs or service control policies, as well as tag policies, you can apply across your entire organization or subsets of accounts. Really depends on your particular business use case and how you decide to split up your environment.
Yeah, it's interesting when people start off and you're starting to learn AWS, you start to learn the security checklists to go through, and as I mentioned, maybe you start out with your own personal account and you're learning and you set up those security things, and then 6 months later you're like, oh, I need another account, and maybe you forgot that you enabled MFA the first day or something like that. So how does this, I could see how this helps when you're creating 20 more accounts and you don't want to manually do all of those security findings like enabling MFA, disabling this service or whatnot. I see how service control policies can help with that, not only in just your first account, but in many accounts as you build more and more.
Yeah, absolutely. So, when you're starting out with your first couple of accounts, you're probably not going to see as much benefit.
Yeah.
It is really when you scale to hundreds of accounts or even thousands of accounts, and when you're in a position where you're going to need to build new accounts, rather than having to configure or set up each account bespoke or one at a time. You set up these service control policies in advance and your OU structure within your organization so that when you create an account, you slot it into the right place and all of the controls that you were expecting are automatically applied.
And scaling security controls is part of this multi-account strategy, which is a huge time saver, but also you make sure that appropriate accounts, in particular OUs, get the right amount of control. So maybe for your development OU, you have little more relaxed controls, maybe not. I mean, everyone's highly regulated in this building right now. But then when it comes to production, it's locked down tight.
Yep.
Like,
exactly.
you can only do X, Y, and Z, nothing else. You can only use these regions, these services, and that's it.
And in fact, maybe in production, you don't want anyone to ever log into that either.
Yeah.
So stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I'm a huge fan of seeing things visually, and I understand that you want to show us something visually as well.
Sure, yeah.
So we're going to test your multitasking functionalities here. So what do we have here on our screen right now?
Yeah, so right now you're looking at our organizations console. So if you're already in a multi-account environment, this is where you can see your entire organization structure. You see these folders here. Those are what we call OUs, or organizational units. And you can have OUs nested within each other. And it's really a way of defining a hierarchy within your organization, because you can apply those controls either at the individual account level, or you can apply them at the OU level. You can apply them across your organization. So the goal here is to provide you as much flexibility as possible.
Well, I was going to say, the flexibility is nice where, depending on your organization, you can set these up how you want. You can have accounting, marketing OUs, or you can have development, QA, production, or maybe even a mixture of those two environments. So it's nice and flexible.
Now, Ellie mentioned, though, Control Tower, and that sounds epic. What is the difference between organizations and Control Tower?
This is a question that we get asked a lot as field SAs.
It's a great question. Yeah, absolutely. So we think about organizations as really the base layer in how you create your organizational structure. Control Tower really operates on the level above it. It helps pre-create those best practices as well as that organizational structure. So you talk about the security, the logging account. We pre-deploy a lot of those controls that are mandatory for Control Tower to operate and protect your environment, as well as foundational best practices that AWS recommends, such as config, CloudTrail, Identity Center. So all of those come with Control Tower and help customers get started a lot easier.
For example, making a policy saying that CloudTrail logs cannot be disabled.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, we call that anti-tampering in the security world. But also, to that point, you also have somewhat of an account vending machine, so to speak. I may be downplaying it because it's really neat, because one of the big things that when I was supporting, prior to my AWS days, was when you went to go create an account, it took several days because it took several days to implement the baselines, the controls, configure the VPC to not overlap. And so how is Control Tower and organizations blending together to make this much easier for our customers?
Yeah, absolutely. And so Robin will actually show during the demo how organizations and Control Tower work together to make that a seamless experience. But basically, we've taken that account creation process that we've heard customers take many weeks or potentially even months to create a single account down to just a few minutes with all of those controls and pre-configured best practices already in that account.
Awesome. So we have organizations right here.
Yep.
Now, what is next?
Yes, so as Ellie said, Control Tower is almost like a layer on top of organizations. So the important thing we want customers to know is that regardless of whether you're more comfortable using Control Tower, whether you want to use organizations, or whether you want to use APIs, we have tools to help you scale. So what we're going to do here is we're going to walk through the creation of an account.
Awesome.
And I'm going to show you how you can do this in various different ways. And we're going to actually switch back and forth between services so we can show you how they all work together.
And so you mentioned APIs. So if you want to, say, leverage an ITSM to say, like, okay, I request an account using a ticket, and that could kick off account creation too, because it's interacting with the API.
Yeah, exactly. So we do
Kyle, we have our own account we see here.
Test account?
AWS On Air demo. We have the account number and everything up there.
We got you guys covered.
All right, awesome.
Wonderful.
Well, so I pre-created an account because it does take a couple of minutes to create an account, but I'm just going to show you the UI.
We equate a lot of our demos as like a baking show. It's like, well, hi, it's done.
So we're going to go ahead and create a new account here, which we're not going to use, but just to show you how easy it is. This is through the Organizations console, so I'm going to go ahead and call this the AWS On Air Demo 2, since I already created the first one.
Yeah.
And I'm going to use my work email address. If I wanted to, I could apply tags directly to the account here, but really, at a minimum, all I need to do is enter in an account name and email address, and click Create. And behind the scenes, everything's being taken care of for you. The account's currently being created in the background.
I hear the hamster wheel spinning.
Now, the beauty of this is also that Organizations has APIs that allow you to do the exact same thing. So
it sounds like what you just demoed could be at the tail end of a DevOps pipeline.
Yeah.
Something gets committed, and the end result is a new account created.
That's correct. And you talked about ITSM integration and account vending, self-service. That's where the APIs come in. And here you can see that we're basically doing the exact same thing that we did through the UI, where we call the Create Account API, and we're specifying an account name and an email address. And functionally, it does the exact same thing as what you're seeing in the UI.
You could also do this through Cloud Shell if you had the right permissions too, right?
That's correct.
Awesome.
Yeah. So, like I said, we're in the middle of creating this other account, but we're going to click into AWS On Air. So, because I'm coming from accounts, I'm going to start talking about the account management features first. What you may find is that there is certain attributes you want to manage at the account level. Contact information, so that if you ever need to recover access to your account, support knows who they're talking to, can verify that you're the right person. In cases where we have large organizations that are using these accounts, sometimes they have dedicated security teams or dedicated finance teams. So we have an alternate contact set up.
I love that you're bringing that up, because I always advocate that. Fill in the alternate contact for security and billing, I suppose, but alternate contacts for security. And I like that you could do this from the organization's level instead of having to go into each individual account. And I believe there's even a blog post on how to do this programmatically with a script. So if you have hundreds of accounts and you weren't, following this practice before, you could iterate through all of them really easily.
Absolutely. Absolutely, yeah. So as you mentioned, through the Organizations console, you can click into any member account, and you can just create it right here. I'm actually going to demo real fast the API side. So I pre-wrote all these APIs, so you don't have to watch me type.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Baking show.
Yeah, exactly. So what you see here is the put alternate contact API. So I'm specifying the account ID, which is the target account that I'm trying to set this alternate contact on. I'm setting the security contact, and then you'll see some information about me, my email address, my name, my title. So I'm going to go ahead and click enter, and it'll take a couple seconds, and hopefully it'll return. And silence is a good thing.
Yep.
But the beauty of this is, if you come here and you just refresh the page.
Oh, it's magic.
And there you go.
There you go.
So
Awesome.
whether you're doing this through the command line or you're doing it through the APIs, it all works the same way.
That is handy.
Yeah. So I think now we're going to switch over to Control Tower, right?
Sounds great.
All
Let's
right.
do it. Do you know why Chuck Norris doesn't have a control key on his keyboard?
Why is that?
He's always in control.
All right, so what you're seeing here is the Control Tower dashboard. So we want to pick up where organizations left off. So let's go to the organization page. So this main page here, it basically shows your entire organization hierarchy. So the parent-child relationships between all of your OUs and accounts and that entire nested structure. So on the third column, what you'll see is the status. So all of the green ones are either registered at an OU level under Control Tower or enrolled from the account level. And so if they're gray, that means they're managed by organizations and not control tower.
Okay.
And so what we'll do here is that we'll briefly demonstrate how to enroll an account under control tower governance. So what that means is you created the account in organizations, and now you want to enroll it under control tower governance. So you're applying those foundational best practices that control tower has out of the box, as well as any of the pre-configured controls, mandatory and optional controls that you have at the OU level, and that will automatically trickle down into that specific account. So Raman will select that new account he created, and then we'll go to Actions, and you'll see the Enroll button. So what that will do is you'll basically be able to directly apply all of those settings directly to the account once you enroll it.
Awesome. And real quick, because I know we're coming up on time though, but I think it's very important to talk about region opt-in.
Absolutely.
Let's go ahead and cover that real quick.
Absolutely. So on Control Tower, what you would do to opt into new regions, and Control Tower is consistently launching new regions throughout 2023, is that you opt into new regions at the landing zone level. And so what Raman is showing here is all of the regions that I have enabled at both my organization and Control Tower level. If I wanted to opt into new regions, I would essentially just go to Modify Settings, I would pick a new region, and then I would click through and make any other changes to my landing zone. And then once I deploy that new region, everything in my landing zone will be applied to that new region.
Awesome. This is fascinating, and I appreciate you guys coming on to talk about Control Tower and organizations. I love the work that you guys are doing. This is wonderful, and it's certainly helping our customers scale. I've seen it firsthand in practice, and so thank you for taking your time to talk about this for us.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Well, folks, stay tuned because we got some more awesome content. Nick found his power button, so we're doing well.